Hi, my name is Tony Devine, Managing Partner of the Grey Matters Network. I'm joined today by Susan Bourke, a coach and mentor, who's going to talk to us about the new workforce priorities. My own background is I've 35 years in business, particularly in IT. The Grey Matters Network was formed in 2015 to provide organizations with people like Susan and other colleagues across the Grey Matters Network. Susan, you've had an interesting and varied background. You started out life as a physio and today you're operating very much in the legal space as a coach and mentor. Do you want to tell us a bit more about yourself?
Hi, Tony. How are you? It's lovely to be here. I'm delighted to be involved with the Grey Matters Network. Yes, indeed. I started my life as a chartered physiotherapist way back in a long time ago, over 42 years ago now. And I ran a very successful clinic for, about 25 years, I think. And then I actually sold it, at that stage. And then I moved into property management, as you did or do in 2006, and evolved through that rather turbulent period of Irish property. And then I sold that business also quite successfully. And then I moved into marketing. And I did a master's in digital marketing. And I ended up then really being involved with the Law Society in the legal space through my husband, who's a solicitor. And I ended up training with the Law Society. And then I realized that they needed content. So I now run a business with a software marketing platform which creates content for solicitors, and I mentor solicitors and I coach their teams on how to actually do successful digital marketing.
Fantastic. Yeah, as I said, a varied and very broad and deep at the same time background. So today we're going to talk about the new workforce priorities, and I know you have some views on what they are.
Yes, indeed. There's certainly workplace has been changing and different things, priorities have emerged for business leaders. But all 5 of them that I'm going to mention have a people component. So you need to protect your people. You need to communicate effectively. You need to maintain continuity of work. You need to assess the workforce costs, and you need to prepare for recovery. So they're the 5 big areas I see the future needing to look after.
So, Susan, let's go through these one at a time. You talk about protecting your people. I mean, obviously, with your legal background, are you talking about legal protections, or is it much broader than that?
Well, I mean, I could spend a whole podcast talking about legal protections, but certainly, a kind of an umbrella cover of that would be you need to protect your employees. You need to look after them, both like from an employee kind of workplace environment and from a legal point of view, with them moving from home, you have a health and safety issue and all of that. But that's not really what I'm focusing on. I would be focusing on the people themselves and their mental health. And this new way of working means that you do have to really protect your people. You have to look after your team. You have to look after your talent, and you have to nurture it, because you're trying to retain employees because the cost of new employees gets expensive. So protect your people, listen to them, have a little bit of empathy and mind them.
Very good. And of course, the buoyant labour market that we see today, it's so important to retain your people.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And you've also talked about continuity of work. Do you want to expand upon that?
Continuity of work is about, again, in this remote situation, I think there's a huge element of trust. You have to be sure that your team knows what they're doing. And good coaching, if you coach a team leader, in any business environment, doesn't matter what they work at, if you coach them, they have clarity and focus, and they know what they want their team to achieve. And by having them very clear about where they're going, they can relate and portray that vision with good communication to their personnel. So then you get this continuity of work, that you're all working forward, you're all working with the same goal, and the same smart incentive is there to get you to the end.
So it's a kind of a framework or a structure.
Framework, yeah. Cool. It may not be a physical framework, but it's certainly that the team leader knows what they're doing. They have a framework in structure in their head, and they can relate that. So there's good continuity of work with employees.
And I think out of order, but going back to what you listed as your second one was communication. Do you want to talk to us a bit about that?
Yeah, I'll give you a little example of that if you like. I worked with a large legal firm in Dublin, and we did some coaching with them, and they had a new project they were working on, and we worked with the team leader, he was a solicitor, to give him, his vision, his clarity on what he wanted to achieve with that particular project. And as a result, he was able to relay that to the others underneath, and they all performed much better. And their feedback was very positive, because they found that because they were very clear what they had to do every day, there was no shilly-shally, and they were able to achieve that work. And if they didn't get that direction from the top down with good communication, they would have floundered, really.
And just with your coaching hat on there, Susan, because obviously as an expert in marketing and legal matters, you know, there's a temptation, I guess, for you to go and give the answer, but you know, with your coaching hat on now, how did you achieve that outcome with that team leader?
Well, when you're very good coaching, you're an empty vessel. You're there to facilitate what the team want to achieve, or even the individual if it's one-to-one coaching. So you don't give them directions, you give them direction. And there's a very subtle difference at that S at the end. A good coach never tells you what to do. A good coach gives you direction, and you know why you're doing it. So you're bringing that strategy from the person and building their confidence in their ability, and you're leaving them with that long-term ability. It's not a one-off. They are now learning how to do that sort of SMART goal, how to build on it themselves, and how to communicate it. So you're growing their own ability to be a good leader.
So it's genuine personal development for the individual.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And you also talked about costs.
Oh, costs are always an issue. And again, you know, you'd hear it in the workplace now where people are trying to kind of cut costs, and they're trying to pare back, because I think anybody of a certain generation knows we're heading into a bit of a recession. So costs are always going to be a huge priority. But if you cut costs on your personnel, you will ruin your business. You need to look after your employees. You need to be sure that they're nurtured. You need to take care of their well-being. And that's all part of workforce costs. So nurturing your employees and making it a good place for them to work, there is no cost on that. That pays dividends in itself.
Yeah. And I guess by virtue of, you know, you use the term nurture, it's not all down to euros spent. It could be more of this subtle kind of embracing, empathizing. It could be more to do with effort as opposed to money.
Yeah, I mean, people like to trust. You need to trust your employees, and people like to feel part of a team. They like that, you know, kind of glow. They like to feel they are productive, that they're valued. And, you know, if you don't get that in the workplace, you know, if you're discontent, you're going to go somewhere else. So like those kind of arbitrary costs, they're not a physical cost. You're not paying for them, but they are the costs that retain your workforce, and they are the costs that, and you see nowadays, a lot of these big American companies are giving, you know, a half day once a month for personal reasons, you know, or you can have I hear my own children involved in various companies like that. They can have a late morning so that they can get a coffee and a muffin on the way in. And that's part of their well-being and their future. It's marvelous. It certainly wouldn't happen to my day, Tony, I can tell you. But I certainly think it's interesting to see the way this is coming into the workplace. And it's very positive. And as a result, their commitment and value to their company, they appreciate it, and they give that value back in return. You know, they don't turn the clock off at 5 o'clock. They don't close the laptop. They're inclined to make their commitment because they appreciate that they're a valued member of the team.
Cool. So it's not all about euros. It's much deeper. And let's talk a bit about recovery. That was your fifth priority.
Well, I suppose recovery is ahead of all of us in every aspect. And this new way of working, you know, you can call it hybrid, you can call it remote working, that is definitely here to stay. And that there's a certain digital transformation involved in that, because a lot of firms have to embrace technologies they've never used, and they have to have training in that, and they have to be confident with it. And again, that has to come from the top down. But it's a very interesting way. You know, as we can see in Dublin City ourselves, the way it's working, you know, offices are not back to capacity. But preparing for that means, again, effective communication. I'll come back to the coaching of it really again, Tony. If you have personnel who are coached properly from the top down, who are confident in what they're doing, who are confident in how they're going to lead their team, then that preparation for recovery will come, because they will know where they're going. And I mean, the famous old adage, if you don't know where you're going, how are you going to get there? So good coaching will definitely give them the skills to make informed decisions, to take action. But it's the coaching, it gives that to them. It gives them that for life, so that they're able to actually do that and be a very confident part of the recovery of that firm.
but that's been very insightful, Susan. And just to kind of, I guess, recap and the key takeaways for me are, I mean, the first of your 5 was to do with protecting, the concept of churn and turnover in the workforce is clearly with us all. There's many surveys now talking about the great resignation and over 40% of people considering moving within the next 12 months. So clearly very, very important. You talked about communication, you talked about continuity of work, you talked about cost, and you talked about recovery. So if I was to ask you for maybe 3 key words that people could take away from this podcast today?
I think my 3 would have to be attention, focused, and trust. So, if you have the attention and you have the attention to detail and the attention to management, and you're able to focus on that, drill down into it, deliver good communication, and you have the trust of your employees, you've got a pretty good platform moving forward.
Fantastic. Susan, really appreciate your time today. And if you want to get access to people like Susan and others in the panel at the Grey Matters Network for support, either as coaching and mentoring, please contact us at thegreymattersnetwork.com. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tony.